It was just past 7 a.m. when I heard the kettle click off. I didn't move at first. Just sat there at the edge of the counter, watching the morning light stretch its thin fingers across the tiles. It had rained a little last night. Not enough to cleanse anything. Just enough to streak the windows and leave the world looking tired. I poured the tea without thinking, the same way I always did. 1 sugar, no milk. A quiet ritual that used to feel like warmth. Now, it just felt repetitive, like brushing hair you'd already lost. My phone buzzed against the counter, his name lighting up the screen again. 3 missed calls, all before breakfast. I didn't answer right away. I just stood there, palms wrapped around the cup, feeling its warmth settle in and then slowly leave. Like him. The third time he called this morning, it was about the garage remote. He couldn't find it. Again. And I just knew, that what he really wanted wasn't the remote. It was reassurance, comfort. That quiet, steady voice I always gave when he unraveled over small things, I gave it again. Of course I did. Try the drawer by the sink, I said gently. But my eyes were already somewhere else, not even looking. At the sink. I used to think this was love. All that softness, that readiness to step in and calm his storm. Wasn't that what devotion looked like? Being the one who holds it together? But lately the tea grows cold faster than I can drink it. There's something about silence in the morning that feels both sacred and cruel. You think you'll find peace in it, but sometimes all it gives you is space to think. The kitchen was spotless. I'd cleaned it the night before, wiped down every counter, arranged the spoons in neat rows, a small act of control in a life where I felt less and less like myself. Sometimes I catch myself wondering, when did I stop being seen? Not in the big ways. He still thanked me when I cooked, still kissed my cheek when he left. But I felt more like a background presence, a familiar shape in the house, expected to stay still so the rest of it wouldn't fall apart. I leaned on the counter and looked out the window. The neighbor's dog had knocked over their trash bin again. A small mess, a tiny rebellion. Part of me envied it. I hadn't finished my tea. It just sat there, half drunk, by the sink. Steam long gone. I touched the rim. Still cool. And that's when it hit me. Not like a wave, not like thunder. Just a quiet realization. I couldn't remember the last time I drank a full cup while it was still hot. It wasn't just the tea. It was books I started and never finished, baths I ran and never took, conversations I swallowed for the sake of keeping things soft and quiet, things I left unfinished, not because I wanted to, but because someone else always needed something first. There was a shadow that moved across the floor then. The light shifting just slightly as clouds passed overhead. The kind of detail most people wouldn't notice. But I did. I used to love mornings like this. I used to hum when I cleaned. Used to find comfort in the sound of spoons knocking gently in the drawer. Used to feel like my world had a rhythm. Now, everything felt offbeat. Like I was dancing alone to a song I didn't choose. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text. Found. It. Thanks. Sorry for being annoying. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't know what to reply, but because I couldn't remember how many times that exact sentence had been sent. Sorry for being annoying, but never. Are you okay? I typed out a reply. You're not annoying. I sent it because it was true in the moment. Because he wasn't trying to hurt me. He just didn't see what I was giving up to be his anchor. And that's the hardest part. Not the fights, not the loneliness, but the realization that love sometimes becomes invisible, especially when it's quiet, especially when it doesn't ask for anything in return. I poured the rest of the cold tea down the sink, watched it swirl, slow and final, didn't make another cup. Instead, I picked up a book from the counter, one I'd started 6 months ago and never finished, and tucked it under my arm. I wasn't sure I'd read it today either, but just holding it felt like something, like a promise to myself, however small. The house was still quiet. My daughter was still asleep. The laundry was still waiting. The day would still unfold the same way it always did. But something inside me, something faint, had shifted. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was something simpler. A quiet acknowledgement that I am here too, even if no one asks. Even if no one sees. And maybe tomorrow I'll finish my tea while it's still warm. The laundry room has always been a quiet place for me. It's small, just a narrow space between the kitchen and the back door. But something about it feels safe. The hum of the machine, the soft rustle of cotton and wool, the way the light lands just right on the tiled floor in the afternoon. I come here when I need a moment, when I can't quite name what I'm feeling, but it sits just beneath my skin. This morning, I stood there holding the same blanket I've folded too many times, blue and frayed at the edges. One of the few things we brought from our first apartment, before the mortgage and the routines and the quiet, hollow way we love each other now. I fold it once, then again, then a third time, slower this time, smoothing the corners like it matters. It doesn't, but it does. He used to make me laugh. Back when we had less space, less money, less to prove, he was this oddly charming mix of clumsy and sincere. I remember him tripping over his words the first time he tried to tell me he loved me. I remember the way he used to lose his keys once a week, and the way I teased him for it. We laughed a lot then. Not because everything was easy, but because we didn't expect things to be perfect. Now he still loses his keys, still calls me in a panic when he can't find the remote or forgets where he parked, but it doesn't feel the same, because I don't laugh anymore. I just fix things. Fold the blanket again. It's already neat, but I unfold it just to redo it. I don't know why. It's become a habit lately. Redoing small things I've already done. The towels, the utensils, the blankets. It's not about order. It's about finding a moment where I get to decide how something goes. That tiny sense of control, because everywhere else in my life, I feel like I've disappeared. When did his fears become mine to carry? It's a question I ask myself in quiet moments. I know he doesn't mean to be heavy. I know he's always had trouble being alone, even in a room full of people. But over the years, that neediness has grown vines around me. He used to call it love. I did too. But now, it feels more like dependence, and I feel like a lifeboat, sturdy, expected, always there, never sinking, but always holding someone else above water. Outside, rain taps gently at the window. Not a storm, just a soft, steady drizzle, like the house is being whispered to. I remember the early days, when we used to sit on this floor during storms, legs tangled, backs against the washer, and talk about nothing. About our future. About names for children we hadn't met yet. About recipes we'd never try. It was warm then, not perfect, not always easy, but warm. Now, when he sits beside me, I feel the space between us more than I feel his presence. Like, the air is thick with things we're not saying. Are you okay? He asked me last night, half asleep, barely a whisper. I wanted to say, I don't know how to be real with you anymore, but I didn't. I said, I'm fine, and turned away. I turn off the laundry room light, then back on, then off again. The switch clicks softly, but it echoes in me louder than I expect. Why do I keep leaving it on? Maybe it's because I want someone to notice, to walk past the open door, see the light, and wonder what I was doing. Maybe even ask, but no one does, because I'm always doing. Always folding, always fixing, always fine. The blanket rests in my arms now. I don't put it away right away. Instead, I sit down on the floor, just like we used to, back against the washer. The same spot where we once shared secrets, kisses, fears. And now, silence. I hold the blanket tighter. Sometimes I think I stay, for the memories more than the moments. But even memories fade, don't they? The rain picks up for a second, just enough to blur the glass, to remind me how long it's been since I really felt seen. I wonder what he would do if I stopped folding the blankets, if I left the laundry. if I let things fall out of place. Would he notice? Would he ask? Or would he just step over the mess, waiting for it to fix itself? I place the blanket down, folded just right, and this time, I don't redo it. I leave it. It's not perfect. The edges are slightly uneven. One corner sticks out, but I leave it anyway, because maybe that's where I begin again. Not in being perfect, but in being honest. And maybe, just maybe, someone will see it and ask why. I watch her quietly from the kitchen doorway. She's sitting at the small table by the window, crayon in hand, a crease of concentration on her brow. Her little fingers grip the crayon tightly, pressing it against the paper with all the seriousness of a painter bringing a masterpiece to life. The drawing is imperfect. A house with a roof that leans to one side, smoke curling from the chimney like a hesitant whisper. Stick figures surround the house. Smiling faces, arms stretched out, legs just lines on a page. One figure stands a little apart. It's supposed to be me. I haven't played with her in days. Not really. The world has grown so heavy lately, like the air around me has thickened. And every breath is a reminder of all the things I'm not doing. The moments I'm missing, the little hands I should be holding. But how do you mother someone else when you're being mothered by your partner? It's a strange kind of exhaustion. The kind that doesn't just come from sleepless nights or long days. It's a quiet, gnawing tiredness inside your chest that no amount of rest seems to fix. I want to be here, fully here. But I keep slipping through the cracks. Her voice breaks the silence. Look, Mama, I made a family. The word is misspelled, the A too big, the M a little crooked. But the meaning is clear. Family, she says again, proud and hopeful. I smile, though it feels fragile, like it might crack if I hold it too tightly. I reach out, tracing the edge of the drawing with my finger, careful not to smudge the crayon marks. There's a pause, a hesitation in the space between us. She looks up at me, eyes wide, waiting for the praise, the warmth, the reassurance. I want to tell her everything, that I'm sorry for the times I'm not enough, that sometimes I feel lost, like I'm drowning, in things I can't name. But the words don't come. Instead, I tuck a stray lock of hair behind my ear and nod gently. It's beautiful, I say softly. And for a moment, that feels like enough. The stick figure that stands apart. It pulls at something deep inside me. Is it distance, or the space I've allowed to grow between us? I don't know. I just know it hurts. Later, I hold her hand as we sit on the couch. She leans against me. Her small weight a quiet reminder of the love I want to give, but sometimes can't. There's no grand gesture here, no sweeping apology or promise. Just the simple act of being present. I realize that motherhood isn't always about the big moments. Sometimes it's about the quiet ones, the soft smiles, the shared silences, the little hands brushing hair away. It's about showing up, even when the heart feels heavy, even when the lines aren't perfect. The drawing still hangs on the fridge, a reminder that love isn't flawless. It's messy. It's imperfect. It's real. And maybe that's enough. For now. Sometimes it's the smallest things that catch you off guard, like the clink of dishes in the early evening, faint but steady, or the blur of a window pane, catching the last light before dusk. That's when I noticed him. He waters his garden without hurry, moving with a calmness I hadn't seen in a long time. Not the rushed, anxious kind of calm that hides worry beneath the surface. No. This felt different, deliberate, gentle, as if each drop of water was a quiet promise to something fragile and growing. His porch light flickers on just before the sun dips below the horizon. The soft yellow glow a small beacon against the deepening blue. I catch myself watching sometimes, more often than I care to admit. It's strange, isn't it? How someone can feel like a warm presence without saying a word. One evening, the porch light blinked on again. I was by the window, pretending not to stare, but the glow pulled me in. Then he caught me. Our eyes met through the glass, And for a moment, the world shrank to just that one quiet connection. He lifted his hand slowly, a soft, easy gesture. Without thinking, I lifted mine too. The silence between us said more than words ever could. There was no rush, no expectation, just the simple understanding that someone else was there. I thought about how long it's been since I felt seen like that. Not really seen. Just noticed in the small moments, like the flicker of a porch light or the pause between breaths. I imagine what it must be like to live with such peace. To let the world slow down enough to notice the green leaves glisten after rain, or the way shadows dance across the steps. Maybe that's what I've been missing. His gardening gloves rest on the porch step the next day, worn and soft from use. I think about the care it takes to nurture something so ordinary and make it bloom. And I wonder if I'm ready to let myself be nurtured, too. It's a quiet kind of hope, not loud or flashy, but steady, like the porch light flickering on. There's something about cinnamon that always feels like home, the way it curls in the air, warm and familiar, but also a little mysterious. Saw him first near the herbal teas aisle, the soft fluorescent light humming overhead like it always does in those quiet moments. He held a small box of cinnamon tea, like it was a secret he didn't quite want to share. "It's for nights when the thoughts won't stop humming," he said, almost like he was confessing to a stranger. I didn't say much in return, only smiled softly and picked up the same box from the shelf. I didn't open it that night. Later, I sat at my kitchen table with the unopened cinnamon tea box in front of me. The silence was thick, heavy with all the unspoken words between us and inside my own head. I could almost hear the noise that wouldn't stop humming, even when everything around me was still. It's strange how the quiet can feel so loud. I folded the receipt carefully and tucked it in my pocket. A small, stubborn gesture of holding on. There was a tension I didn't quite understand yet, between wanting comfort and fearing what that comfort might mean. The tea stayed unopened. I told myself I wasn't ready. Not yet. Sometimes, the space between moments is where healing begins, not in sudden epiphanies or dramatic changes, but in the soft pauses, the quiet breaths, the delicate unfolding of time. That night, I listened, not just to the silence between arguments or the noise in my head, but to the stillness inside me, fragile, but growing. And maybe, just maybe, that's where cinnamon finds its true meaning. Not as a cure or a fix, but as a gentle reminder that some noises can be soothed, even if only for a little while. The unopened tea box sits on the counter still, a quiet promise waiting to be kept. And in that, there's a kind of peace I haven't known in a long time. There's a bench near the mailbox that always catches the late afternoon sun just right, the kind of light that softens the edges of everything, making the world feel a little less sharp, a little more kind. I found myself drawn there, not by any plan, but by some quiet pull inside me that just needed a place to rest. My daughter was nearby, busy drawing in the dirt with a small stick, making little shapes that didn't have to mean anything. The way she concentrated, lips pressed together, reminded me how simple things used to be. He came too, without making a big deal of it. He talked about pruning hydrangeas, like it was the most natural thing in the world. His voice was calm, steady, no pressure, no expectation. For a while, I just listened. There's something about being seen without being asked to explain, about sharing space with someone without the weight of conversation hanging over you. The bench doesn't ask for more than I can give. It doesn't demand stories or answers. It's just there, solid and quiet, like a steady heartbeat beneath the noise. Sometimes healing feels like that, not a grand gesture or a dramatic breakthrough, but the slow settling, the small moments that build up over time. I noticed a dandelion crushed under my daughter's shoe. It seemed careless, but it wasn't mean. Life has those little stumbles, messy, imperfect, and somehow that felt right. The initials carved into the bench were faded, worn by years of sun and rain. But they were still there, faint and steady. Reminders that even things meant to last only a little while can hold meaning. I brushed my hair behind, my ear, a quiet gesture that felt like grounding myself. The afternoon light caught the strands just right, a small, gentle reminder that I'm still here. And in that quiet bench, with the sun warming my skin and the world softening around me, I felt a kind of peace that doesn't need words. Just being seen, just being still, that's enough for now. There's a cold that settles deep, not just in the bones, but in the quiet spaces between us. It started as a sniffle, a cough, something small, but it grew heavier, like a weight that neither of us could quite put down. He paces the floor, the same restless steps over and over, as if movement alone might push away the worry that hangs, thick in the air. I lie in bed, fevered and fragile, watching him spiral into that familiar anxiety. The kind that doesn't just come with illness, but with the feeling of losing control. The bathroom mirror fogs up from the hot water. I barely feel. I press my hand against the glass, tracing a shape I barely recognize. My own face blurs behind the steam. Soft edges, indistinct, a stranger's reflection pressed faintly against the glass. For a moment, I wish I could see through it, see myself, clearly. But all I get is that vague outline, a shadow of who I was before everything got so heavy. He's there when I come out, his eyes full of silent worry. I reach for his hand, not with words, but with a small touch that says, "I'm still here." He doesn't say anything. Maybe there's nothing to say. Sometimes just holding on is enough. The medicine cup sits on the edge of the sink, half full, forgotten for a moment. I pick it up slowly, the plastic cool against my skin, and swallow, the bitter taste that reminds me of weakness and hope all at once. The slippers lie askew beside the unmade bed, small chaos in the stillness. I drag my feet to put them on, the soft fabric grounding me back to this tired, quiet world. There's a gentle conflict in the silence, between needing care and wanting to be strong. He wants to protect me, but sometimes his worry feels like a weight pressing down, reminding me of all the ways I'm breaking. And I want to reassure him, but the words get caught somewhere between breath and fear. A shift comes not in a grand moment, but in the smallest gesture. He sits beside me, still, restless but calmer now. I feel his hand find mine again. A silent apology and a promise tangled together. The fog on the mirror begins to clear. I watch the steam curl upward, carrying away the blurry edges. And somewhere beneath the haze, I catch a glimpse of myself. Fragile, uncertain, but still here. The mirror doesn't show the whole story. It never does. But it catches the moments where light begins to break through. And for now, that's enough. Birthdays used to feel like quiet celebrations, small traditions wrapped in candlelight and familiar smiles. But this year, my birthday slipped in almost unnoticed, like a page turned without comment. The day passed like any other chore. I moved through the motions, folding laundry, washing dishes, carrying the weight of a quiet hope that maybe he'd remember. He did mention it once, a phrase tossed casually, with no warmth beneath it. "Happy birthday," he said, but it sounded like he was reading from a script. I nodded, smiled softly, and let it pass. There wasn't anger, just a dull ache, like I was invisible in the middle of my own life. Later I found myself on the porch, alone with the evening hush. That's when I noticed the small glass jar resting near the doorframe, wrapped carefully in twine, catching the last light of the day. Inside, a folded note pressed against the glass. I took the jar in my hands, feeling the smooth weight of it. The note slipped free, and I unfolded the paper with trembling fingers. "For the quiet ones," it read. One tear slipped down my cheek, soft, silent, and I let it fall without shame. The world felt bigger somehow, and smaller too. I sat in the car afterward, the jar resting on my lap. The jam inside glowed gently, like a secret sweetness waiting to be shared. I touched the glass, feeling the coolness through the warmth of my palms. The unopened jar became a quiet companion, a symbol of care wrapped in simplicity. I didn't need words that night, just the knowledge that someone saw the parts of me I usually keep hidden. I wiped the tear away with the back of my sleeve, not bothering to hide the softness that came with it. Sometimes small things carry the weight of love, and sometimes that's enough to hold on to. The unlit candle on the shelf waited quietly in the background, a reminder that some light can wait for another day. The jam jar caught the fading sun, on the porch, the way ordinary things can suddenly seem extraordinary when held in the right moment. And I sat with that feeling, the gentle warmth of being quietly seen. I said no. It wasn't loud or sharp. It was soft, careful, almost a whisper in the space between us. But it hung there, heavy and unexpected. He looked at me with panic in his eyes. "Why are you changing?" he asked, voice trembling with confusion and fear. For a moment, I couldn't answer. My mind drifted back to my childhood, to a mother who gave everything she had, smiling as she slowly disappeared. She never said no. She never drew a line. I see it now. I'm not breaking away. I'm reaching for the surface, trying to breathe again. There's a torn edge of a child's drawing stuck to the fridge at home, colors bleeding beyond the lines, a small imperfect shape. It reminds me of myself, messy and trying. The window is cracked open, letting in a soft breeze. It moves the curtains quietly, unnoticed. I realize that boundaries don't have to shout. They don't have to break. They can be gentle. Saying no feels like learning to speak again. A language I forgot I deserve to know. He wants to understand but fears losing what he thought he had. And maybe I'm afraid too. But I know this is necessary. For me. For us. I reach out, my hand, but this time it's steady. There's no rush. No need to fill the silence with words that aren't ready. And so the quiet settles between us, fragile but real. I hold on to the soft sound of that boundary, like the breeze through the curtains, moving, alive, and breathing. And I let myself breathe with it. There was a time when making his tea was like a quiet ritual, a small act that felt like love. I'd watch the steam rise, the delicate swirl of the milky brown, and think maybe this everyday thing was all the warmth we needed. But now, the mug sits still, untouched, cold. The faint lipstick stain on the rim is faded, like a memory slowly slipping away. The silence stretches in the room, thick and familiar. It's not loud or angry. It's the kind of quiet that fills every corner, even the spaces between my thoughts. I can feel it pressing gently against my skin, reminding me how something once so simple can unravel. My child watches me from the doorway. There's a softness in those eyes, a quiet worry that makes my chest ache. It's like they know something's different but don't quite understand. They say nothing, just stand there, waiting. Waiting for the moment when I might speak, or maybe just be. That night, after the world falls away and the house breathes in the darkness, I find my pen again. It feels foreign in my hand, heavy with all the words I didn't say, the feelings I've tucked beneath layers of routine and fatigue. I write slowly, carefully, like I'm remembering how to hear myself again. Each stroke of the pen is a small reclaiming, a soft promise that maybe this quiet isn't the end, but the beginning of something else. The mug stays cold, yes, but in the pages, my voice begins to stir, fragile and real. The drawing on the fridge catches my eye, a child's world captured in crayon strokes. A little figure sits alone on a couch, arms wrapped tight around tiny knees. Above, a heavy black scribble stretches like a storm cloud, dark and unrelenting, looming over a smaller figure beneath. I study the hands that made it, the imperfect lines and earnest shapes. It's a story told without words, a quiet confession in color. Even what's unspoken leaves fingerprints. Even stillness carries weight. The laundry piles folded on the couch remain untouched, a silent witness to the distance growing between us. The hum of the fridge fills the kitchen with its low, constant drone, mixing with the quiet tension that clings to the walls. I reach out, tracing the edge of the paper with a trembling finger, as if by touching it, I could soften the storm, bring warmth back to that small figure's curled-up heart. But storms don't clear with touch alone. They linger, teaching us about the spaces between love and fear. And in that moment, I realize, sometimes the heaviest weight isn't the words shouted or the tears cried, but the quiet, slow unfolding of what's left unsaid. The porch feels heavy with silence. I sit there, my shoulders rounded, the weight of everything pressing down but not spilling over. The tears come quietly, almost like they've been waiting for this exact moment. Slow and steady, not loud or dramatic. They fall without a sound, tracing paths down my cheeks, and I don't wipe them away. I'm not sure how long I sit like that, wrapped in the quiet dusk. Then the neighbor appears, without knocking or asking if it's okay to sit beside me. They don't say anything, no words to fix what's broken, no advice that would sound empty even if I wanted it. Just their presence, that's enough. A shared silence that doesn't demand explanation or apology. The kind of quiet company that doesn't rush in to solve or change, but simply stays. It lets the ache be real without trying to smooth it over. The porch light flickers above us, hesitant at first, like it's uncertain about the night. Then it steadies, glowing soft and steady. The two chairs sit side by side, facing the fading light, and for a moment, the world feels less heavy. We don't say much. We don't have to. Sometimes, sitting without fixing it is the first step toward healing. Sometimes the things we don't say hold the heaviest weight. I write him a letter, but it's never meant to be sent. It lives somewhere between my hands and my heart, folded quietly into a place where only I can reach it. Each sentence is a quiet ache, a whisper of the years I've spent feeling unseen, like a shadow stretching out in a room that's too bright. I start with the pen hovering over the paper, the ink flowing slowly, as if reluctant to spill the truths I'm too tired to say aloud. The words come not in a rush, but in gentle drops, like the first rain after a long drought. They speak of longing, of moments when his eyes looked past me like I was part of the background, not the person waiting to be noticed. There's no anger here, only the soft weight of disappointment and a quiet hope that someday, maybe even just once, I'd feel fully seen. Not for what I do or how I fit into his world, but simply for who I am. The kind of seeing that doesn't ask questions or demand explanations. As I fold the letter, I think about all the words that never made it to paper. The silences that filled our conversations, the pauses that stretched between us longer than comfort could bear. I tuck this letter inside a book, like pressing a flower from a forgotten spring, a small piece of myself preserved but hidden. That book sits on the shelf now, a quiet monument to the parts of me I keep locked away. It's not a secret I'm ashamed of, but one I protect, because sometimes the act of folding words away is the only way to keep breathing. There's a steaming cup of tea on the table beside me. I let the warmth seep into my fingers, grounding me in the moment. It's simple, this small ritual, but it feels like an anchor in the gentle chaos of my thoughts. The steam curls upward, soft and slow, vanishing into the stillness of the room. I glance toward the door, where light seeps beneath, the crack like a silent invitation. It's the threshold between what's spoken and what remains quiet, the border of the life I live and the life I imagine. Sometimes, I wonder if he ever feels the weight of my silence, that the space between us isn't just empty, but full of the words I've folded away. But I don't ask. I don't need to. The letter rests between pages, a hidden message that says everything and nothing all at once. In these quiet moments, I realize that healing isn't always loud or dramatic. It's often found in the small, gentle acts of letting go, of folding away the words that would only hurt if spoken. The letter is still there, folded and waiting, but so am I. Waiting for a time when maybe, just maybe, I can open that book and find new words to write. Until then, I sit here with my tea, the warm cup a silent companion to my quiet ache, and I breathe. There's something small and quiet about changing a space when everything else feels uncertain. Today, I moved the couch. It wasn't a dramatic shift, Just a gentle nudge to rearrange the room I live in, the place that holds so many memories, some worn thin from years of silence. For a long time, I didn't notice the way the room trapped me, how the furniture's familiar shapes became invisible walls I couldn't cross. But today, the afternoon sun spilling through the window made the shadow of that couch feel heavier than usual. It pressed down on the floor, on the air I breathe. So I pulled it away from the wall, slowly, deliberately. The couch slid with a soft scrape, the floor humming under its weight. I watched as the light shifted, filling corners that had been dark for too long. It's strange how something as simple as moving a piece of furniture can make the space feel less like a cage and more like a room waiting to breathe again. I straightened the throw blanket draped over one armrest. A small gesture, but it felt like folding a piece of myself back into shape. The blanket was folded differently now, softer somehow, as if it understood the change I was trying to make. In the corner, there's a wedding photo. I noticed it today because it was slightly tilted, just enough to seem off balance, like the life it captured had been nudged out of place. I gently straightened it, smoothing the glass with my fingertips. It wasn't about erasing the past, but about facing it honestly, without ignoring the cracks. He noticed the changes, the way the room looked different, the way I spoke now with a softer, steadier voice. My no doesn't carry anger anymore. It holds its own quiet weight, a gravity that pulls at the spaces between us. He doesn't know what to say. I don't explain. This is how I'm setting boundaries, not with loud declarations or fights, but in the way I move through my days. Opening a window when the air feels too heavy, cooking meals just for myself some nights, tasting the food in a way I haven't in years. I realize that I'm not breaking away from us. I'm simply carving out a small corner of the world where I can breathe without apology. There's no dramatic confrontation, no sudden turning point, just the soft hum of the house settling into a new rhythm. The afternoon light catches the dust motes dancing in the sunbeam, a quiet reminder that even small changes create movement. I sit back on the newly arranged couch and feel the shift beneath me, a subtle comfort, like a breath held too long finally released. This quiet rearrangement is my way of telling the story without words. The room no longer feels like a memory frozen in time, but like a place alive with possibility. Fragile, yes, but breathing. And maybe that's enough for now. The rain began softly, like a whisper against the porch roof. It didn't rush or demand attention, just tapped in a steady rhythm that felt almost like a lullaby. I sat there, wrapped in the quiet, with my child curled against me. Their small head rested against my chest, breathing slow and even, matching the steady fall of water around us. It's strange how silence can hold so many things, the weight of everything left unsaid, the space for healing to stretch out without hurry. I've learned to sit in that silence now, not to rush to fill it with words or explanations, but to simply be. The porch light flickered above us, once, twice, then steadied. It was a soft glow, not bright enough to chase away the shadows, but enough to keep the darkness from swallowing us whole. It felt like a quiet promise, a gentle reminder that even in uncertain moments, some light remains. The neighbor passed by, their footsteps light on the wet pavement. They didn't knock or call out. They didn't ask questions or try to fix what was broken. They simply offered a wave, a small, unspoken gesture of company. I returned it without standing. No words passed between us, but that was enough. I am not healed. Not yet. There are parts of me that still ache in quiet corners, memories that settle in like the rain soaking into the earth. But sitting here now, feeling the rhythm of my child's breath and the steady patter of rain, I know I am home in myself again. It's not the kind of home that gleams with perfect walls or polished floors. It's a home made of small moments, like this. A fragile, unfolding presence that feels more like a beginning than an end. I think about all the times I wanted to rush through the hard parts, to patch the cracks quickly so nothing would show. But healing doesn't work that way. It's slow and imperfect. It's folding yourself back together one small piece at a time, even when the edges still feel raw. The mug I hold in my hands is warm. The steam curls softly, disappearing into the cool air. I clutch it as if it holds more than just tea, like it carries the weight of this quiet evening. the comfort of being present without having to explain. My child shifts slightly, their fingers tracing lazy circles on my arm. That simple touch speaks volumes. It says, I'm here, we're here, and that's enough. I let my eyes close for a moment, listening to the rain, feeling the pulse of life in the gentle world around us. The porch creaks faintly beneath us, a reminder that even old things can hold steady when given care. Sometimes I imagine the rain washing away the pieces of doubt and fear I've carried. Sometimes I think it fills those spaces with something new. Hope, perhaps, or just the quiet acceptance of being still. No grand revelations come tonight, no sweeping changes, just the steady rhythm of breath, rain, and time moving softly forward, and as the evening deepens, I hold on to that. The feeling of stillness that is not empty, but full of small, unspoken promises. Still here, just quieter now.